Hey guys, and welcome back. Now, don't make fun of my beard. Don't make fun of my hair. Yes, it all needs to come off. That's going to happen this weekend. But I've been too busy. So let's get into this. All right. We've got an 18 with 46,000 miles. Now, this is proof that it's never too late to start doing the upgrades to your engine, especially when you want them to breathe better. You want them to perform better. You do some towing and you want them to be more dependable while you're towing. You don't want to risk overheating, all that good stuff. Plus, everybody's talking about the oil filtration system that we use a lot of, the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass. So we're going to get into some parts here really quick. We're going to get into the truck, and then I'm going to show you some stuff while we're doing the truck, just like always. And of course, the fleece coolant bypass that we're going to do with the cab down in my garage at my house. Yes, it can be done. Proved that in a couple other videos, but we're going to show you again. Now, I'm going to try and get the camera angles that I need from underneath so that I can show you how to get that freeze plug out with the truck on the ground, the cab on it. So let me get into this. Hold on. As I have said, we have a 2018, 46,000 miles. Goodness, we on there, whatever. Anyway, we got the Banks Monster Ram. Always lovely to see one of them installed. Not lovely to see the clamp installed like that. I'm going to change that for the guy. Probably going to do some rerouting of this harness too, because I really don't like that either. But that's just my pet peeve. Anyway, let's get into some parts. Well, first of all, first thing I did when I pulled the truck in was get the coolant drained. Of course, we got to get the coolant drained. We're going to do the coolant bypass. I'm also going to flush the living crap out of this thing. So down there is the petcock for the radiator. Let me show you. Right down there. Now to loosen up that petcock, I use a stubby ratchet, and I don't even know what size it is. I just grab it. It's a 10 millimeter. Anyway, loosen up that petcock, start getting your coolant drained. Make sure you get the power steering reservoir up out of the way so you don't scrape the living crap out of your arms trying to access it. Anyway, while the coolant's draining, let's go through some of this. So here we go. We got the very sexy nude Banks boost tubes. I love Banks boost tubes. They're not going to fail like the factory ones are going to fail. We see that hot side one, especially the hot side one, blow apart all the time. Now, let's get into the fleece coolant bypass right here. So we get the hose. This is what's in the box. You get the hose, you get your zip ties. This is to clean the area where the freeze plug comes out. And this right here is your fleece carb sticker. This is your new thermostat housing in the front, and this is your new thermostat housing in the rear. Now, make sure that these fittings on both of these thermostat housings are tight prior to putting those in the vehicle. Okay. And they also give you your EGR bypass tube gaskets. This one, sometimes they can be reused. Whenever I get them, I throw brand new ones in there. Make sure you don't lose these, okay? That one right there goes in right here on this connection. It is very important. If you lose one, and they're easy to miss, that you drop it on accident or whatever, just it'll leak if you leave it out. Anyway, let's move on over to this set right here. It's the Insane Diesel Oil Filter Bypass. We got a progressive filter from 10 micron down to 1 micron. This one is an engine mount. There's your engine mount bracket because this thing has single alternator. And then, of course, they give you your fittings that are required for installing. This one goes in the cap. These two go in the bottom of the filter. This one, we will pull the pressure port out of the oil filter housing down there. You can't see it so well. But anyway, I'll show you more when we get to that part of it. And then you route your hoses. I make my own hoses. When we get to that install, I'll show you how I do the hoses and stuff. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but that's what's on the docket for today. Stick around with me for a few. We're going to get some installs going. It's going to be a little mix between several different things all going at the same time. I don't just do one install, then move on to the next install, then move on to the next install, because sometimes you have things overlaying. Like, I got to get the air filter housing out of the way. not only to do the boost tube, but to do the oil filter bypass installed as well. Anyway, stick with me. We're going to give you some more videos along with this, and hopefully some good tips and tricks that I didn't cover on the last one. But here we go. Let's get into it. First thing I'm going to do is start off with the fleece coolant bypass, getting the front thermostat housing in. There is the front thermostat housing installed. Now I'm going to proceed to flushing out the cooling system. That way, this gives me a place where I don't overpressurize the system. I can plug it to move fluid to different spots, so on and so forth. When you're installing this, the retaining bracket right here for this upper radiator hose has to slide down the hose just a little bit. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with these, but sometimes this rubber insulator underneath this bracket can get very, very stuck to that hose, and you got to use a lot of patience, let's just say, and a little bit of lube to get it to release from the hose so that you can get the clamp to slide down. So what I do usually is I'll just remove the clamp off of that, proceed to peeling that rubber off. It does have a factory slit in it, so you can peel it open. And then once you get it released from the hose, you slide the clamp back down over the top of it and securing it. If you don't do that, then it gets cocked. This bracket gets cocked, and this hose doesn't butt all the way up to where it should. It'll pull back a little bit. So make sure you take that extra step to ensure that you have a good positive connection here, and you're not putting in a bind here. That bind can end up in a wear spot that potentially could rupture the hose. So make sure you do that. Now, what you'll also notice when I did all of that, I got my socket stuck on. There we go. I did turn that clamp, and that clamps back in all with new gaskets. Now, I do spray a little bit of WD-40 underneath the clamp on the flange on both sides so that you're not fighting friction, and you can make sure that you get these clamps tightened down sufficiently to where you do not have any leaks. All right, well, moving on to the next thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start doing this coolant bypass. There is the bracket. You can see I've already taken the bottom bolt out and top bolt is loose, but I want to show you how I get those out. So the bottom one I just get through from here in the wheel well. The top one, and I do this for both sides, I come down under the truck and I have a bunch of long extensions put together. And if you can see way up there, come on, focus. It's right there. I'll break it free with the extensions and a ratchet, and then I'll bring it the rest of the way with battery impact. I'll do the same for both sides. So let me get this one out and I'll show you the other side. Okay, now we're over here on the passenger side, or on the driver's side. And as you can see, there's a transfer case, and I have extensions going all the way up. I know it's hard to see, but that booger is way up in there. And you can get it through here. Now, the one that sits on the horizontal plane, it's a little bit trickier to get to, but you can still get to it from under here. I usually stick my arm up around the driver's side of the bell housing with a ratchet wrench and get it taken care of from there. So I'm going to get this thing out and then show you the next steps. All right, now once you get this bracket out, release that clip to get the vent line out of it, and then zip tie the vent line back into the main harness on the driver's side. Let me show you where we're at. So let me turn on my light. When you are underneath over here, you can see that main harness coming up over there, right up there. So let me see if I can position this main harness running up over here, way up top by the head. Just zip tie that vent line over to that. Let me show you the vent line. Here it is. So this vent line right here. Okay, get it up on top and then zip tie it up to that harness way up there. You don't want that thing just flopping around down here, because then it really sucks for everybody. Now once you get that out, we'll use pretty much the same extensions that we did to get those bolts out. But let me see if we can see that top part. Man, it's really hard to see. So way up there, you can see just a fraction of that freeze plug. Let me see if I can position it better. Yeah, you can't really see it. Anyway, it's like right up here. If you start hammering on that, you can get that freeze plug to twist in there sideways, and then you can stick a little tiny pick or a pry bar. My pocket pry bar is about that big, and get that thing to roll all the way out and then pop it out. That way you can clean up all of the surfaces and then start going back together with the fleece. So after a few cuss words and some perseverance, you'll finally get this little booger out of there. Now you can see if you hit it on the side, so this was sitting in the back of the head like this, and I was going from the driver's side over across the top of the trans tunnel, smack it with a hammer a few times, and you'll get it to turn about like that. Then you can get a little pick or a little tiny screwdriver, get behind it over here, and turn it the rest of the way, and then it'll fall right out pretty much. So once you get that out, then in the kit, they give you a piece of Scotch-Brite. Use that Scotch-Brite pad to clean up all of the sealant that these use from the factory, so that the O-rings on the back of the thermostat housing right here will seal. Now, when I put these in, I also use a copious amount of lubrication on it, some grease, just any kind of a light grease, white grease or whatever. Grease up that O-ring, slide that back in, put in your two supplied bolts, 16 millimeter heads, and make sure it's good and tight. As we say in the German tongue, good and tight. I have no idea what it means. It just means get it tight. Anyway, I'm going to get that put on. Oh, one more thing. Again, make sure that that fitting is tight in there. I've already done that. And before you slide that in, connect your hose. It'll make it a heck of a lot easier on you, instead of trying to get this in and tighten down after this is installed. So there's another little word from your Uncle Josh, bit of piece of advice. Remember to tighten your hose, okay? Then this swivels, so it doesn't really matter about the position of the hose, because again, this swivels. Just get that good and tight, good and tight. All right, so there's the fleece coolant bypass installed with the hose. Put the back clamp on right here, attached to that heater hose. You know, those cool looking zip ties they give you with the kit. And then you can go ahead and put the wheel liner and all that back together. It'll come back up, and then attach the hose along that heater core line, just about like that, and get it attached to that front thermostat housing right here. And then that part of the job will be done. Now also, I am installing the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass. So I started and got the connector into the oil filter housing and got this line ran back underneath. Don't worry, I will tuck it away from the exhaust so that it doesn't sit there and burn up on that. Bring it out around and attach it. And then right down there is the bracket. So I'll get the rest of the fleece installed, get the air cleaner tube back in, the air cleaner housing, wheel liner, all that good stuff. And then we'll go back to doing the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass and wrap this one up. So stick around for just a few and we'll be back. Alrighty guys, there she is. Everything's completed, put back together. Filled up the coolant, took her for a road test, checked for leaks, double checked the oil level, because you have to add another quart when you add that Insane Diesel oil filter bypass on. So we've got 13 quarts going into these now. Everything is tied up. Not going to rub, not going to chafe. Oil level's good. Coolant's good. No codes, of course. I did run a scan report prior to working on, and then after I got done, of course, some codes are going to set. So you clear the codes, and then on the road test, make sure you run through a complete warm-up cycle. Some things are a 2-trip failure, which means you need to run 2 road tests. So keep that in mind. Anything that I disconnected does not, though, so I'm not worried about that. Again, check for leaks. No leaks on nothing. Everything is good to go. So another one's going to be done. Another happy customer is going to be made. Again, we got the Banks boost tubes on here. We've got the Insane Diesel oil filter bypass and the Fleece coolant bypass. So yeah, all's good in love and war, I guess. Whatever. Thought I'd just say that. I don't know. It sounds pretty stupid now that I said it, but do want to give a big shout out to these guys, the guys from Insane Diesel, the guys from Banks. Love y'all. Still haven't had a chance to talk to the guys from Fleece yet. They're ducking my emails or not responding. Actually, I think they probably just get so many of them that they haven't noticed me yet, but someday soon, maybe. Anyway, I'm going to get all these stitched together so that you guys can have the pleasure of viewing another video. If you have any questions, of course, reach out, email me. Do not call my dealership going, hey, where's that truck stuff guy? Hey. All of the guys there have been instructed to not take any of your information. Your only avenue of communication with me is either by email or text if you know my number. So anyway, have a good one. We'll talk to you guys on the next one, and stay safe out there.